Um, the first thing I thought we would do is just kind of introduce ourselves. I may know some of you, we may know each other, I'm not sure. But my name is Charlie Malone. I'm the department chair for American Sign Language at Santiago Canyon College. We typically offer a broad range of classes that I can go into a little bit later, but basically the premise is to provide our college students with a background in American Sign Language to get them ready for different careers, implementing or using American Sign Language. And what I'd like to do is just kind of go around and see who's here, what organization do you represent, and I also would like to hear what community and services your organization offers. Part of that is just so we get familiar with each other. Also is to help me and others in our department become, keep up to date as to what's occurring in our community. So if you don't mind, just go ahead and introduce yourself and please tell us a little bit about your organization. Anybody want to go first?
I'll jump in. Hi, my name is Kyla Wilkenfeld. I am the owner and founder of Heartsong Interpreting. We provide interpreting to various different genres and venues and basically just try to outreach with the community and provide equal access to everybody. We have an emphasis on basically a rainbow of interpreters. We've noticed that there's been a big need for matching what interpreters, matching the interpreters to the need of the person. A lot of POC interpreters are needed, a lot of people who have specialty in information in different areas. So we're trying very hard to match those strengths and those requests to the community. As far as offering out to the community, we also provide mentoring services, and we provide 6-week or longer workshops that culminate in a performance type interpreting situation.
And may I ask, are you based here in Orange County? Or?
I'm actually in Los Angeles, but we welcome to virtual interpreting. We cover pretty much everywhere, East Coast, West Coast, you name it, we're there.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing.
My pleasure.
Joey?
All right, one more time. Hi, my name's Joey Contreras. I'm from Orange County, Deaf and Equal Access Foundation. I'm a regional director there. We cover deaf and hard of hearing, also deaf blind, various services as far as communication, access, independent living skills, information referrals, community partners also with the EDD, different community events we tend to go to with the deaf and hard of hearing. We do presentations, workshops, deaf sensitivity trainings. Also, we partner with GLAD, OC Deaf, Riverside, LA, Be Glad, which is Bakersfield, deaf and hard of hearing services through multiple counties. We also right now have some one-on-one through Zooms. We do video presentations. Also, we are currently working remotely from home, like most people. Services we provide, tech services, free for the deaf and hard of hearing. Sheesh, some multitude of examples. So there you go.
Thank you for sharing. We get some ideas of what we're doing. I'm just going to show you a little bit about our SCC certificate requirements, give you a little brief overview of what we require. Later or during this meeting, I just want to, part of my interest in this meeting would be to hear from everybody how COVID has perhaps impacted your organization, and I'll be happy to share how it's, playing a role at the college as well. I'm just trying to anticipate a little bit for the future and to see if there's any kind of changes that might be up and coming, and so that we might be better prepared for them. For the next minute, I'm just going to go ahead and show you the SCC certificate requirements. These certificate requirements have been in existence since, I would say, probably the early 90s. There hasn't been any changes in terms of the classes required, except that about 5 years ago, I went ahead and went in and changed the American Sign Language courses. They used to be at 3 units, and changed it to 4 to be more consistent with our local other community colleges, as well as our CSU and UC system. We also added an 18-hour lab, and we've been working on developing that lab over the past, I would say, actually about 6 or 7 years. Part of developing the American Sign Language Lab, we started off as a physical lab on campus, and we slowly added content based on student surveys and what they were telling us they needed, and based on our own observations of students. But basically, try to make a long story short, we have evolved the capability from to be able to go from a physical lab, in-person learning with computers, media technology, recording devices, all that sort of things, to being able to offer these exact same things virtually. We just coincidentally started working on that over the course of the past 5 or 6 years. We were, prior to COVID, we were just starting to pilot out our very first American Sign Language course that was completely online. It was an 8-week course, and it was actually launched in spring of 2020. And in the course of that, COVID actually happens around March. The way I intended to offer American Sign Language online was to actually go very slowly, just like we did with the lab. But what COVID has done is it's really kind of pressed us to offer as many of our courses online as quickly as possible. And I think fortunately for our program, we were already getting some of the stuff in place for our very first level 1 course. So it made it a bit easier to transition over to an online environment. The current total unit requirements is 24. We do have some certificate completers. I would say probably 1 or 2 per year. It does seem like it might be increasing a little bit in frequency as of this year, for whatever reason, I'm not sure of. Hopefully we'll be able to figure that out, but I do hope to keep that momentum going. Some of the typical program highlights that we do, we provide our students with language learning and cultural awareness within the deaf community. So, information that you might share you might have participants such as Joey, where you have OC Deaf input. We really do want to be aware of what the deaf community is currently feeling, the perspectives, how they may be impacted, especially with COVID, their access to resources, those kinds of things. And part of that is information is, it's valuable so that our students are aware of it. We do get an occasional deaf and hard of hearing student into our classroom. We like to be up to date with that. But all these things come together with the language learning, cultural awareness, and current events and current organizations in our area. And so as I become aware of additional resources or agencies out there, I do share that with students. I just give them a very, very brief overview. Hey, there's, an interpreting agency. There are several of them in the Orange County area or Los Angeles area. These are things that they might be, or that they may be doing, just to give students an idea of what's in the community. And if you have any questions at any time, or you'd like to input anything, please feel free to interrupt me. I just would like to get through the typical program highlights to give you that brief overview, but really, I also want to switch back to you to get your input within your areas. So our ASL club, we usually have that in existence where students make new friends, they network, we find ASL skills, and increase cultural awareness. We had a good club set up and running prior to COVID, and unfortunately, as COVID has hit, that ASL club it has not been in existence since. Currently, I have some dialogue going on with Irvine Valley College. Irvine Valley College is also talking to Santa Ana as well, and we're trying to see if we can get an online ASL club shared between the campuses. And part of that is, you know, you get more critical mass, get more participants from different areas of the county. So we're trying to see if we can get that kind of started up again in an online environment, or until something, until we're able to go back into the physical campus. So our campus, we have a completely mediated laboratory, as I mentioned before. Students that go through our program use a lot of current software technology in order to complete their media or software-based assignments. So that's one of the things that we're proud of, or we're happy, is that our students are at least, you know, sometimes they may come from a background of not using technology at all, to rapidly understanding to apply technology into their studies, into their learning. For the Modern Languages International Film Festival, we typically show films that are conducted entirely in American Sign Language, Spanish, French, and Italian, and we usually host that online, on campus. This is another avenue that, you know, I have found it enriching. I remember when we first started our American Sign Language films, where we have, you know, films done completely in American Sign Language. I would not only have students, but I'll actually have staff come in and approach me, and they would say, is these films really done in American Sign Language? And I would have to explain, yes, it's done completely in American Sign Language. They have their own producers, they have their own directors sometimes, and so that cultural awareness is important. So it's education, you know, it's providing us an opportunity to share our knowledge with the students, but also with faculty on campus. And I'm sure this in turn impacts the community, and hopefully is a positive impact in the deaf community, which is something I think our department always likes to keep in the back of our mind. How can we contribute and help the deaf community in our surrounding areas? We also do celebration of Deaf Awareness Week. We've had guest speakers, so we've had a deaf comedian come on campus, tell, you know, some pretty funny jokes. But again, it's that exposure to, yes, there is a deaf community out there. You know, we don't all just teach American Sign Language. There's deaf people from all walks of life, and so that's kind of nice event to attend. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. That's a basic premise of what we're doing. A lot of what we have done, it's become challenging with COVID, and that's the kind of basic premise of what this meeting I would like to ask you about. And so for you, can I ask you, do you have any immediate or short-term changes to your service occurring as a result of COVID-19? Is there some specific challenges? Is there something that has emerged that's new, that perhaps was not present before? I would love to hear from the community members that we have. Any changes?
Before COVID, you know, we would prepare our staff with webcams. Also, we also use the VPs, the video phones. We have one-on-one services that we would be able to provide. So now we're calling three-way sometimes, providing services. Since COVID has hit, and you know, we already had the webcam, so that was established. We have the video phones set up, so that kind of helps. So ongoing, having our staff at home, setting that up with the VPs and the webcams. So doing some of that one-on-one has changed. Knowledge-based remotely, like in offices, a lot of them have closed, so people can't come in. So our customers who don't have access to the internet, that's become challenging for them. And, you know, we work with them, some of them, on how to get video phones, how to get them set up, low income Wi-Fi. It's been a process, you know. Sometimes it takes like a week for somebody to be able to get access to these services once we start them. So before, we did have a deaf coffee chat in our office. We had that in our meeting room. We would do that every Wednesday. And it was a great place mostly for senior citizens to come. We'd have technology for them, kind of these presentations. It was time for them to adjust to Zoom then. We had to set up the coffee chats online, and that's every 2 weeks now on Wednesdays. So we do that through Zoom. Sometimes we have 60 people, sometimes we have 2 people. It always varies, but we're trying to provide that communication through association, through kind of mingling. We're trying to get them caught up what's going on with the new norm, some of the interactions. I do miss the socialization, and I know that they miss that socialization also. That's become a little bit harder.
Are you aware of the deaf community getting together in person at all? I know it's not something that where a lot of us are staying at home and such. I've been concerned about the face mask. I mean, at the mask that we're wearing, they seem to be a barrier to being able to see the grammatical aspects of American Sign Language. Are you aware of anybody using clear face mask or has advocated for the use of clear face mask, or have you seen any deaf community members perhaps using clear face mask with success or anything like that?
Mostly remotely. Again, some provide one-on-one services, some places counseling, maybe if it's something severe, or if it's a health, maybe an alcohol program, they have to be one-on-one. I know they have set up some plexiglass between the actual consumer and the clear mask for them. Some providers, do relips a little bit, so that does kind of help with the masks. Our office is already kind of prepared for if we return back in after COVID. We do have the plastic glass around, kind of like a barrier, so it's like a cubicle. And then we have the clear mask with also the shields, the face shields in the front, to be able to provide those services if and when we reopen.
I understand. Maybe kind of are you aware of perhaps any interpreting services? I was wondering, because I personally don't know of any deaf individuals who have been admitted into the hospital with COVID. I don't know if you've had any experiences or have any exposure to providing interpreting services in a hospital, perhaps under COVID conditions. I'm aware that we do have, technology where the nurse can wheel in an iPad or something, and that from that iPad communicate with the deaf consumer. I'm also aware that there's quite a few deaf community members that prefer to have a real live deaf person in the room, just because it just seems sometimes for some in the deaf community, it's more accessible for them in terms of acquiring language, or not acquiring language, but understanding what's going on around them. So, and I know there's a pretty good restriction in place as to the hospitals, but I don't know what's currently happening with that. And do you guys have any experiences or exposure with how that is occurring?
My agency is actually rather small, and so we have not done any of the medical or hospital interpreting since COVID has hit the entire world and turned us on our access. So as far as medical interpreting in person, my agency hasn't sent anybody out to do that at all. We've done very little in-person interpreting. Most everything we've been doing has been remote and online. As far as personally going out into the community and doing some pro bono interpreting and things like that, I do use a face shield, and I try to maintain a distance without a glare on the face shield, which sometimes can be one heck of a challenge. But as you mentioned, the grammatical structure of ASL is body language and facial. And so it's been quite the challenge to work with the community and still provide the full language access. And so we're trying to kind of work around that. I instruct when everything hit, I contacted some of my friends who can sew. And I said, hey, I need some face masks that have some sort of access to the mouth and at least something. And we came up with some very rough prototypes and sent them out to our interpreters for those who are still doing some in-person interpreting. And as you've seen, the masks and technology have gotten so much better. And so now people are trying to find something that doesn't fog up or something that fits better. And so as things get better, as technology gets better, so have our masks now. And so we're trying to find those things to provide that access to the community and that connection that I find that the deaf community ASL, that personal connection is so important. And so we're trying to find those masks and those avenues that allow us to maintain that connection with our consumers.
Thank you. Jody, did you want to share?
I know that some of the interpreters do access the medical situations, but depending on the situation, the interpreter may be okay with it. Some of them have got their vaccinations. Those are a lot of the frontline interpreters. So mostly BRI, video remote interpreting, through the hospitals. They're trying to set that up. The hospitals are kind of in a process of improving their VRI capabilities. But again, most are VRIs, the interpreters are needed, they make that request, they'll look someone, or they're doing the one-on-one. It's hard finding someone who's willing to go in there, you know, do the whole cover up, mask, shield. Also, you know, being there and interpreting in that situation, sometimes it can be limiting depending on what, I don't know, what the situation is. But yeah, I do understand that there are gonna be limitations.
I think we have somebody joining us. As I believe, is that Judd Hurley? Or I'm not sure. We have somebody else here in the meeting.
Yeah, that's me. That's right. I'm here. Hello. It's Jet Hurley. Good to see you guys.
And are you still with Goodwill Industries? Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Dale
no,
McIntosh Center. I
DMC,
apologize.
McIntosh Senator.
Okay.
Senator. I'm sorry. Yeah, there you go. DMC.
And
A long time ago. It was Goodwill, but that was a long time ago.
so I know you just joined us, but are you aware of any impacts the deaf community or any experiences the deaf community is currently feeling as a result of COVID, access to services, being able to access the hospital or anything like that, or anything that I might, you know, or also our students should be aware of?
Yeah. In the outside world, really, I'm not sure. I got no idea. I've been in isolation. I've just kind of been around the house a whole lot. So I'm kind of out of contact with a lot of people. But I feel that there is a disconnect. Most people impacted are just, you know, kind of stuck in that also. But from my experience at DMC, you know, there's been an impact as far as the consumers. You know, it's not as easy to work with them in person, one-on-one. So we've replaced a lot of that with Zoom, and it can be a little testy at times. You know, there's lag time. Sometimes you're waiting. It can take a long time. Maybe the person's there and, you know, they get easy access. Things break down. Computers don't work well. But for the accessibility through the internet and the computers for our deaf and hard of community, that's mostly what's going on. And some can afford, you know, the Wi-Fi and the laptops and the computers and all the stuff necessary since COVID has hit. And then Joey says he has a retort, or he'd like to say something too. I've seen some documents where people are doing one-on-one. They're just kind of signing what it is in whatever language that they have and making it easier for them. But that separation, you know, they're kind of doing this up to the screen, and people are trying to read stuff, and that's a struggle too. You know, people have to be trained. There needs to be time how to maybe take pictures, email me that photo, scan it, send it through a scanner, send it to me. You know, we had a challenge at one time is that process of getting things and improving them and having an understanding. But it's great because people are benefiting, they're learning new skills. So, you know, again, there's not that one-on-one. Generally that only happens if there's an emergency, but we'd like to let them know that, you know, sometimes some of these things can be challenging. And then Jet said, hold on, one second, go to switch interpreters. Go ahead, Mona.
She's on mute. We can't hear her.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so I use docking for for a long time. I don't use that anymore. Like the paper, I agree with what they were saying. The sign, DocuSign, you know, and it breaks down. Sometimes there's not a lot of access. I mean, really, it is a challenge, things like that. You know, they don't understand the meaning. You know, you send out a letter, they're supposed to send it back. It is a tough situation.
I wanted to add, sorry, hands down. I've noticed that there's a new Zoom etiquette that we really need to pay attention to. Before, Zoom meetings were a lot of cameras off and just kind of hanging out and people just do whatever they need to do. Now it's the cameras need to be on and you need to be actually show your face in this picture, and I need to be able to see the signing space, and you know, no over talking, and can we please set up a rules where the closed captioning is showing. And so there's a lot of education that's happening since COVID has hit the scene, just to make sure that the access to the information is actually there. So a lot of things that we've encountered that I hadn't mentioned before, but a lot of things that we encountered is the pre-meeting to Zoom. So we actually sit and talk with the people that we're going to be interpreting for and say, okay, we're going into a Zoom meeting. That means that we need this, 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 and this, and this, and here's why. So there's a lot of extra education to the community to explain the needs of accessing language. And it's been an interesting journey to educate people, but I think through that education, as we've seen, interpreters have become more of the norm as opposed to a rare occurrence or sighting.
So there might be more widespread exposure to American Sign Language interpreting. I do notice that with the White House. I noticed that for a while there was no interpreter present, and now that there is, so I do recognize that. Also in the classroom, we, as instructors, we also initially, especially, had struggled with how do we use webcams with Zoom if we were using Zoom technology. What if the students have their cameras off? How do we know that they're attending to lecture, or if they just merely are just showing up? How do we write this into our syllabus if we can? Is it legal? Is it ethical? Is it moral? And we're still progressing on those things. So there's some parallels there. I definitely hear about the Zoom technology or similar technology. I think all of us have done like a paradigm shift to this whole, new world that I don't think any of us really anticipated occurring so quickly. Are any of your organizations currently, I'm thinking of a couple of things. Is there any funding that has been made available to you from the government, perhaps that would help and assist the deaf community and in terms of access, maybe training or courses on how to use a particular type of technology, maybe a task force or small groupings of people to develop and implement, what is needed right now, what is needed that would assist our community and to just being able to navigate COVID. I really do feel for everybody, really, but I, as a deaf person myself, I couldn't imagine if I got admitted into the hospital or had to access certain services. I personally would be very worried, how do I get my interpreter? Even if I request it, would they come? That kind of thing. So all these things are coming kind of, in the back of my mind. So I was wondering, has maybe I don't know if the CARES Act applies to you or not, or is there anything like that occurring with your organizations to help the deaf community? Nobody?
Jet?
I'm trying to look down to see Jet.
Okay. Is Jet? Well, really, I have funding, IDC for the disabled. It's just a general disability. It's not specifically to deaf or hard of hearing. I haven't seen any of that, not really. But I think in general, there is some funding for equal access. I mean, at my work, DMC, I think they are trying to offer resources, but specifically for the deaf and hard of hearing, I haven't heard anything. I don't know, Caleb, you or Joey? No, I mean, DMC usually has, knows what's going on.
Is there,
So for 1 minute, I'm going to be back. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I was going to add, and I'll wait for Jet to come back. So I have a little something to add.
and I'm actually having a little bit of a Zoom issue right now, just to let you know, I do have the PowerPoint in front of me, and then I have this vertical screen, which only shows about 5 people, and we have more than 5 people in this group, and I'm trying to be cognizant of everybody here, so I apologize in advance if I haven't acknowledged your presence yet, but I do see that we have an Autumn in this group.
Yeah, there's
Yes, sorry. I'm from VitalLink. I'm
Okay,
just here to record everything.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So yes, this has been rapidly evolving. Maybe has there been an uptick in funding? Any discussion of uptick in funding to designate for the deaf community or anything, or interpreting services or anything like that?
I wanted to just throw a little tidbit out there. The only funding that I've heard about is the government funding that provides a stipend to businesses based on their size, specifically for the ADA, whatever they need to make work for their ADA in their company. I believe that might be what Jet was referring to. I know that it's $5,000 for small businesses, and I think it's $15,000 for large businesses. I'm not sure of the numbers and everything, but I know that's available, but I haven't heard of anything else. And as sad as it is, I haven't heard of anything else doing anything. Actually, just prior to COVID hitting, there was a lot of legal battles and talks going on regarding the independent contractors. And that very much impacted the use of freelance interpreters and the way that we as interpreters were allowed to function. And that has continued since COVID is going on. It's been a little more lax, but it's still an issue that we need to keep in the front of our minds, because that legislation is still on the table, that independent contractors have certain things that they need to do to live up to and be able to work. And that's something that has both changed and impacted COVID interpreting.
Okay, and just to kind of review and recap on that one, I am familiar to a certain extent. So are you referring to independent contractors impacting sign language interpreters and such that they have to be part of an agency, or if they work by themselves as independent contractors as they have in the past, they would have to set up their own small business? Or am I right along those lines? Is that still correct? And
You are correct. Yeah. If you are working as a freelance interpreter, for example, as an agency, we have to actually employ the interpreters unless those interpreters can prove that we are not their main source of income and that they are employed by other agencies as well. And that is that gray area that allows us to keep working, but it's such a thin gray area that we really need to check our P's and Q's, cross our T's, dot our I's, and make sure we know where everybody is, because it's a really sticky situation, because there's a huge penalty if we cross the line in the wrong way.
Are you aware of any interpreting agencies? I mean, I think you were mentioning earlier about interning or an internship, just so that you guys are aware, we, prior to COVID, we were just starting to get interns from California State University at Northridge. So they may have gone through our program for the certificate, but moved on for further training. And in this case, if we had one come back from Northridge, unfortunately, with COVID hitting it all, we just had that emergency occur, and she decided that she was going to stop her intern at that point. However, that doesn't, I have every interest in pursuing and providing quality interpreters for the community, and perhaps interning can be continued. I'm not sure what shape or form with COVID conditions, but something that we can still discuss. And that's also part of this, the committee that we meet today, you know, allows me to apply for grants or grant funding to help perhaps, you know, if there is a area that we're not able to cover specifically at the college, we might, you know, might be able to use some of that funding to meet that need that the community has.
I think that's an excellent, excellent plan. I love it. I know my agency, we do a lot of mentoring and doing some workshops and things like that. And that is cut down a lot because of the need to be online. We can't bring our students with us to our assignments. And because these are Zoom meetings, the confidentiality is now an issue. Before it was able to, we can talk to our consumers and we can check out everything and make sure everybody's good, and then bring a student in to observe, or maybe hands up depending on the situation. And now everything is so, all the information is so available in every meeting that there are so many other levels of security and confidentiality that we need to watch out for. A lot of the students who are in these programs are really struggling to get their hours of observation and hands up time. And that is in fact affecting us in the long run, because those new interpreters who are bridging into the profession, a lot of them aren't able to bridge in because they haven't finished their observation or practicum hours. And so that in the long run is really going to impact us. Right now we're okay, but what's going to happen in the next year or two when these students come up to work and they haven't done their work?
And I'm going to venture to guess there might be an additional shortage of interpreters as a result of the requirement for having a small business association or something like along those lines. Does anybody else want to help?
Jen had a comment, it looked like.
I was just asking if
Well,
anybody
I
else
was
had
waiting
any
till
comments.
you were done. Okay, you're done. Okay. So yeah, you know, really, I was just thinking, as an ASL instructor myself, my classes, I teach at 2 different schools, and I've had experience teaching on Zoom and the different technologies, online lessons, and I feel like it's really a big, well, this is my opinion, okay? So I don't know if you guys are going to agree or not, but teaching ASL in the classroom is top. Zoom, no, 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 no. I feel like it's not successful. It's not effective. They don't build their skills. The skills don't improve. They can't, you know, talk to yesterday. Yesterday I had it was the 4th week of the class, and few of the students, very few of the students were even signing anything, you know, and I'm like, come on, you got to sign, you got to sign. And, you know, I'm looking around and there's no signing, you know, I'm trying to watch them, but the internet, the technology, and we use Canvas is ours, and I don't feel that it's helping anything. It's making things worse. There's no deaf events out there. There's no deaf socialization. You know, I mean, I tell them to watch a movie, you know, I mean, they're like, well, I guess it's the best thing. I don't know, you know, but it's really tough for the students to become motivated. I don't have an interpreter. It's a bad time. It just really is. It's a bad time for us. It's hard for them to be motivated, you know, to do the work, and the students aren't progressing in the classroom. You know, before, you know, it was easy. They would pick up things, they would be exposed to the language, but now there's no exposure. So I'm just really a little disgusted. I don't know if it's going to impact the interpreting future in future years, but I'm sure it will, you know.
And do you mind if I clarify, are you teaching remote live? So are you in front of a camera with the students, or is this asynchronous? Virtual.
VRI, yeah. And live.
So
Live.
virtually is what I think he was signing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, virtual, sorry, thank you. In the classroom. So we've added, and I've noticed that the students are less motivated, They're, you know, they're just awkward getting started. Their internets are down, you know. I mean, with the classroom, we have that one-on-one connection, relationship. I'm 3D, you know, they can see me, everything. Yeah, we can see her. Yeah, we can see
You're
her.
fine. You're fine.
Okay. So I was feeling, you know, in the live classroom, there's that live relationship, you know, and the feedback. But with Zoom, they just watch me and that's it, you know. And the ASL teacher, you know, we try to check on things and we announce if there's events or ASL is on Zoom. It's just limited. I have 12 students, you know, and if we go into breakout rooms, you know, before I would have like 35 students. And so we would do 10 or 12 or 11 in each room. But now it's depending on, with the breakout rooms, it's hard to get them to pay attention. And I don't know, I don't know what to do. I don't know how much we can do, you know, so.
And switch.
It's a struggle, interpreter switching. Thank you.
Anybody else want to comment on that? Joey?
Okay, so, you know, it's an opportunity. It's hard. As you know, before we were able to host different events, deaf community access, we had sign language, ASL was there. There wasn't a limit, but now in the classrooms, it's a struggle. And I know that, you know, we have some opportunities right now to let people know the students, you know, need hours as far as interpreting goes, you know. So as far as like Tuesdays and Thursdays, on the 8th, we have a student who needs hours. Contact us, contact me, let me know. I'll give you opportunities to work on your interpreting because I want this to be your future. We have to encourage them to join with us. Also for Deaf Coffee Chat, every 2 weeks on a Wednesday, the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday. We do that on Zoom. You can look on our website. Students can join in. They tend to require, you know, signing, conversation. Deaf people join, and you know, you may be a baby signer, but you're going to learn, you're going to improve, your skills will get somewhat better, and that's something to take advantage of. We try to offer that, so that's another idea, a possibility. If people need hours, the students need hours, they can contact me, text me, we can work through something, maybe get in contact with an interpreter, do some volunteer time, develop some opportunities, possibly whatever's out there. I'll just kind of want to put that out there for you. If you need it, let me know.
That sounds really good. I'm going to mention, I'm going to ask, you would prefer at least intermediate level students as opposed to just level 1 students? Or are you open to having a level 1 student attend these meetings and just kind of, you know, observe and be exposed to? What are your thoughts on that?
Some deaf people there, depending on their preference, you know, some of them are just a little more stubborn. You got to be patient. Remember, it's important. You know, these are future interpreters. And, you know, we got to develop some of that patience. And I know that sometimes, you know, they log on and people are like, whatever. And I have to remind them, these are your future interpreters, be good to them. You know, they're trying to develop their skills. As far as like having qualified interpreters, a different story. Yeah, sometimes I'm with the baby interpreters. I'm trying to struggle to get through with them as far as interpreting goes and language acquisitions. And then I see them later, I'm like, oh my God, look at their signing. So you know what? We do have to offer them that chance. So yeah, I would say, you know what, that's fine. You know, level 1s, they can come in, do some observations. That's okay. To see the signing, you know, if they want to, you know, develop on their communications, they want to, you know, participate, maybe encourage them to do that. But yeah, I'm fine with it.
Thank you for sharing. Jet?
Okay, so I have noticed that an ASL teacher, I've been teaching ASL for a long time. I've gone to different deaf events also, exhibits for DMC. I've done those, I've set them up, had people come in. I've seen some of the deaf, you know, complain like, why are hearing people here? What are they here for? Like, why are they invading our area? Like, what are they here for? This is for the deaf, you know? And I have to educate them. These are your future. These are, they're not here right now. Where are you going to find interpreters if they're not here right now? You know, it's going to be a struggle. Where are you going to go find them? They're always like, yup. And, you know, so you got to think twice. You know, these are our future. These are the voices for the future. These are the people we need them. So encourage them to come, create those relationships. Really, the deaf community is small, you know, and when we come in, it's nice, it's convenient. We do our chats, we have our hangouts, you know, and we do deaf. But you know what? We don't want to limit ourselves, we want to encourage them to come. We want to support them too. Encourage those ASL students to come in also, because many of them, you know, we need to remind it's important to have them. The deaf need to keep that positive mindset. So we need to make sure that we focus on that also with the interpreters or baby interpreters.
Well, I definitely hear you. I understand, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah,
There's
right
times
now,
and places.
right now with COVID, I mean, there's like zip in the deaf community out there as far as events go. So yeah, and right now, 2.5 semesters without deaf. Well, okay, well, I can't count the summer, but all right, really, hold on. I'm teaching last year, spring. I stopped halfway through, so I had a chance to teach a little bit. So then I started off at home, plus last fall, and then now in spring. I think we're gonna be adding probably more semesters. I'm done with it. I hope this is done soon, seriously. My boss, you know, we already had a conversation. They let me know through an email whether I agreed or want to sign up to go back to teaching again in the classroom in fall. And I was like, yes, I agree. But of course, you know, we have to be careful. You know, we have to be careful taking measures to be safe. You know, is it safe to go back to teach? If so, or we're going to have masks, which I don't think is a good idea for ASL, teaching with a mask, because then you lose all the facial expression. You don't know what people are signing. You don't see their affects, you know, trying to explain what's going on. My boss told me only if things improve. If it's safe, we'll go back. And I'm like, whatever. Is it going to happen in fall? That's the big question. You know, so I'm trying to be positive, and I guess we're just going to have to wait and see.
And Jen, are you still teaching? Is it CSU Long Beach? No, CSU LA?
Yeah, at two, Cal State LA and Rio Hondo. I'm at both colleges, yeah.
And are you getting that same? Are you getting the same message from both the four-year school and the community college in terms of not sure what they're going to do with the fall?
Clarify that for me a little bit more. What do you mean?
So did you hear from both the community college and the four-year school? Any determinations for sure if they're going back to the classroom?
No, just Cal State LA. That's all I've heard from
Okay.
them right now. So yeah, this is everything coming from Cal State LA. I haven't too much. I don't know what's going on for the fall for Rio Hondo, but they haven't said anything. It's been very quiet at Rio Hondo.
I understand. I'm just kind of wondering what our community partners are doing. I'm going to move forward a little bit. I do want to kind of leave it out there a little bit, though. Also, I think there is emerging opportunities to meet with Zoom that can be taken advantage of. I think it took a little bit of time for some of our students in ASL, not just at SCC, but around Southern California to start, hey, well, why don't we just start this? I'm noticing this a little bit more on social media. And I also want to respect what the deaf community wants, or at least a portion. And maybe they do need their own space to be able to meet. I support that, their own space to be able to meet and do the things that they traditionally do. If we could support a regularly occurring, make it clear that this particular place on, online perhaps is open for the hearing to attend and to practice American Sign Language. It's not uncommon, for a couple of students in my class over the duration of teaching, a year, that they'll come up to me and they'll ask me questions and they'll say, hey, I got a deaf brother, he's 2 years old. What do I do? And, I try to provide that information to them. So even though not all of our students are going to be ever associated with a deaf person, but some might have a deaf family member at some point in their life. And I think it benefits both the deaf community and the hearing community both if we can at least educate them or provide that education in the classroom to let them know the entire spectrum of services that might be out there, just in case that they encounter. Because I've had a student in the past. She had a neighbor that was deaf, and she decided to continue to pursue an ASL based on this neighbor, which was kind of neat. But her heart was in the right place. She was really pursuing the language. She was taking her studies seriously, and it's those little connections that we make or they make in the community that might completely alter their trajectory of what they were going to do. So I would just like to kind of continue to support that. I'm going to go ahead and move on with the PowerPoint. I know we're using up a lot of time, but I just want to share with you as of right now, for spring 2021 SCC, we currently offer 6 ASL 110 courses. There have been no 8-week course. Well, actually, I should update that. It's 6 courses are offered ASL. It's 100% asynchronous. I would like to take the no 8-week courses back, because we have added a late start 8-week course that will be offered at SCC. We are currently offered 2 ASL 111 courses. They're both 16 weeks long. Actually, one's 16 weeks and actually the other one's 14 weeks. And what they were talking about earlier in the meeting about how partnerships with Orange Unified School District, that is something I have been working on and still am very interested in. And as community members, how long it takes to acquire American Sign Language. So we currently offer a course with the freshmen at Orange High School, and I teach that course. And so basically the way it's set up right now is those freshmen start with me in the fall, and they take their level 1 course, and then they continue on with me for their level 2 course. Now this to me is kind of like my baby, if you will, and it's my little project that I really want to see flourish, because I will tell you, and one of the aspects of the program that I really enjoy is we have an avid teacher who supports those students into becoming ready for college. So these freshmen, yes, I will tell you, it seems like they're primed for learning language. It may be due because they're a little younger, I'm not sure. The support of the avid teacher being there, the continuous communication. And so I don't know, but I would like to continue to pursue and maybe expand on that program over at Orange High School, because we already have had a student or two, and this program we've only started since I think last year or the year and a half, but we've already had a freshman that went through ASL 1 and 2 with us, and it immediately applied for Golden West College, which has an interpreting training program. So that, I think, can be a very positive thing for the deaf community and also for the student. He's already acquiring skills to potentially make more than just minimum wage upon exiting high school when he turns 18. But as a deaf community member myself, my primary concern is to make sure that the language skills of the interpreters are excellent, and not just expressively, but receptively, because, as we all know, some of us are better at receptive or expressive skills. And so I just want to put that out there. And if we can get online collaboration between campuses across Orange County, opportunities perhaps for, students that excel in this, to be leaders in running these Zoom meetings in which people are just practicing ASL. And part of it is also maybe the critical mass, as I may have mentioned before. Sometimes one college may not have a lot of students one semester, and that makes the club decline, or maybe a particular person that carried that program graduates, moves on. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Being aware of the community resources that we have, continue to allow them an opportunity to practice. I'm sorry, I'm excited about that. I would like to continue with that. Back to the curriculum, fall 2020. Do you guys have something to say? I'm sorry, I didn't allow any comments. I would continue.
I was just going to add that I love the elasticity of the young mind, and we need to really take advantage of that. So yeah, if they can pick up the languages and they can keep going and come to a point where they are like, yes, I love this, I want to keep going, and then make it a profession. Yes, please, let's encourage that. Please. We need young minds and new hands and new faces.
Oh, I am completely on board. I appreciate your enthusiasm for sure. I would just come back to the program information. I'm sorry. For fall 2021, we are offering level 1, level 2, which is ASL 110, 111. We are offering a level 3 course. We're also offering an introduction to interpreting and introduction to deaf studies. One of the things I'm trying differently this semester is making a shift from 16 weeks to 8 weeks. Now, I understand can be some resistance to that, but if the student is aware, it's an 8-week intensive course. I do believe that they have every opportunity for success in this, but also because I am aware that the serious ASL students seem to really want an 8-week course because they want to get the certificate done as quickly as possible so that they may transfer on to a formal interpreter training program or a 4-year school. So we are trying to do everything we can to meet that need without suffering any or taking away from the quality of the educational language experience that we may provide. So this is kind of what we've already been talking about. So I'm not going to go ahead and read this slide, and I'm glad we had a little round table on that. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of project a little bit. We've already talked about projection of workforce, it looks like we might have a shortage, kind of perhaps based on legislation. Are you getting qualified people? Something also we kind of discussed. May I ask, are you seeing the quality, do you see any differences in quality and language ability of new interpreters having the language expressive and receptive skills? Has it historically been about the same? Is it increasing, decreasing? Do you have any insights on that?
Jet. There's a couple things about qualified interpreters. So let me hold on to this one for a little, if you don't mind. So let me regress about the ASL classes. In addition, remember I said that, my boss had asked me about teaching in the fall and whether or not I would sign a paper to agree to. And so they sent it out to all of K-LA, but any of the teachers who didn't want to were assuming that primarily we got the vaccinations. Then it lagged on for a while. There's no hurry for me anyway to get it. I'm working from home. If I'm teaching in fall, I could wait a little bit later to get that vaccination, let everyone else get it that needs it, get those vaccinations out to the senior citizens, the healthcare workers, those groups of people. I want to respect that. I don't feel like, I need to take advantage of that because I'm a teacher. So, in a broad perspective, as far as the vaccine goes, Charlie, if you were me, and you already got the vaccination, you've already been vaccinated, would you go ahead and teach in the fall in the classroom? So that's my question to you.
That's a great question that I've been battling with. I have lost a lot of sleep over. I don't have a definitive answer for you. Part of me is struggling with the moral and ethical implications of getting the vaccine. I can get the vaccine, but part of it is also, I think I'm aware that we can still shed the virus even after we're vaccinated. And so my concern has a lot to do with the students in the classroom. Maybe some are not getting inoculated or have not been inoculated yet or are not willing to. And, this thing is moving so fast that I honestly, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other yet. I like to err on the side of caution. I like to think health and safety is first and paramount. I do believe that our college is putting quite a few different things in place to make it safer to return to campus. And we do have protocols to follow and such for, if there were an outbreak to occur. but I'm not willing yet to say because there's just too many unknowns right now. And until we get a little bit more knowns, I think I'll be more comfortable giving you a definite answer on that. So
I agree with you. I actually agree with you. I feel exactly the same way. So, now the second part, as far as the interpreters go, I wanted to share with you at DMC, we have an interpreting agency. Before it had it faltered, so it wasn't there anymore. And then with AB5, remember that law, the AB5 law, again,
Yes.
it was hard to keep interpreters, so. Now there's AB2, AB5, AB237. So now, hold on, give me 1 second, hold on. Oh, sorry, I thought it was the other interpreter, I heard a voice, but go ahead. Sorry, Jet. So, that's impacted a lot of people as far as the DMC and other agencies. The rules, as far as full-time interpreters, contract interpreters, getting that together, waiving off the contract interpreters, we actually had to close down. Recently, with the passing, allowing for interpreters, contract interpreters to work out of AB5, and we're kind of putting that away with people coming back because I think they're getting rid of AB5 or it's being rewritten. So as far as I know, we've got a few. We're growing slowly. We're bringing the interpreting agency back. That's got lots of restrictions. It's very strict. We have to do screenings. The agency, I've also noticed that there isn't a large pool of interpreters coming as there used to be. Maybe we had 45, 50 different before, and now I don't even know how many we have, but I've noticed that it's slowly expanding. But as far as what I see, it's just something I want to share with you. It's not growing greatly or rapidly, but it's there.
It's good to know. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, always, for sure.
Okay, so
Joey.
Yeah.
Joey is talking.
Joey down
Thank
there,
you.
hold on, he's off my screen. Didn't know didn't see you. Didn't see you. You were my screen. Anyway, go for it. Okay. All right. So again, it requires the LLCs. I forgot about that. The limited liability corporations. The interpreters are required to have that, or we're required to have them as staff interpreters. So I know the interpreters, they've been able to go wherever they wanted to. They were able to work with every agencies they wanted to. They weren't required to be staff, but now with staff, with all the rules and things that they're required to have with us, they don't want to do that. But these COVID times, man, I'm telling you, you have to think through things first, with as far as where the interpreter goes, because what's also going to benefit them, what impacts the interpreters, what do they have to go through, things like that. It's trying to find an odd balance. It's just, there's so much stuff also you have to read, things you have to make sure that you're up with. Things are changing. I think they're going to be changing again soon. So we'll see what's going to happen come the new way. And then Jet saying, and additionally, before COVID hit, or the AB5, actually there were, now interpreters are gone. They're not there. My question is, where are they? I keep wondering. Are things just, going out of whack? Are they not going to be there later? I don't know what the future holds for them.
All right, Joey, thank you for sharing that as well. Do you anticipate there would be any curriculum adjustments that we might need to consider for the future? I mean, I'm not sure how familiar you are with our curriculum in SCC, but basically we have our standard, curriculum used in signing naturally. We are updated with the textbooks. I believe our signs are pretty current or up to date as well. So I'm just considering for curriculum adjustments also based on technology, more increasing use of technology. I think we've kind of already met that just by being able to run our ESL classes online, but perhaps there's something else that I'm not aware of, or do you guys have any recommendations for adding, or maybe I can compare and make sure that we have certain aspects in place in the curriculum, or at least we should consider. Do you have any up and coming new curriculum stuff that you might be aware of or think about that we might want to consider adding to our courses? And I do see a hand up, so.
I just didn't want to talk over anyone. One thing, or actually a couple things that I'd love to see in curriculum is the simple etiquette that we assume everybody has, but culturally not everybody has the etiquette that is required for turn taking, for using the equipment, for all of those things. And I'd really love to see, even if it's just a short part of the curriculum, I'd love to see something in there that really addresses that etiquette of this new technology and new way that we are interpreting. Another thing that I'd love to see in there is some sort of business class. You know, teaching these kids are going to go into interpreting and this is what they want to do for a business. Well, they need to know what you need to do for taxes and how to reach out to people and how to, you know, make sure that you are doing your best job on all sides. And those are two things that I would love to see. They were missing in my program when I went through the ITP, and I had to learn by hitting a lot of walls. And I would really love to see people address, even on a surface level, some of the things that you need to do in order to get out in the field and make it work.
And I'm just going to kind of sum up and make sure I understand exactly what you're saying there. So perhaps a business class that might give you some education on taxes for a small business environment is my guess. And then maybe, I don't know if I would think our college has something like that already, but I can reach out. But also maybe a small business loan, maybe a workshop how to go through small business loans for a small business association kind of thing. Is that kind of what you're referring to as well?
That is what I'm referring to a little bit, but more specifically geared toward interpreting itself. Interpreting is its own animal. So we need to have the appropriate, now, especially now, the appropriate equipment. We need better cameras. We need better lighting. We need to make sure that all of these things are included in your business plan, or we cannot provide good service. We just can't. It's not a possibility. If your camera is bad and you are interpreting in a situation on a Zoom call, your consumers aren't going to be able to understand you. If your microphone is bad, your sound's going to cut out. So these are things that we need to teach them, both technically and also on the business side of it. Look, if you're going to do this for your agency, you need to provide these things. And then can you write them off? Can you not write them off? Those kind of things that are specific to the interpreting.
I appreciate that. I'm more on the language side as opposed to the interpreting side, to be honest with you, but we do have an introduction to interpreting faculty member. I would certainly touch base with her and ask her about these things and see to what level of detail she may already cover, or if she'd be interested in covering in further detail. And the person we have, I believe, has enough experience with small businesses as well. But in any case, I appreciate your recommendation there. In terms of etiquette and turn taking, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. Thank you. We do teach about etiquette. You know, when somebody posts something in a online forum in an education, you know, what certain behaviors they may want to be aware of when they're responding to somebody else's post. You know, just to be aware what kind of language they should be using, what language they probably don't want to be using. We're in an educational environment, so what kind of rather than text like language and things like that. So we do cover some of that to some extent. I have to tell you, teaching online, I have gotten quite a few. I've always gotten a lot of emails, but what I'm noticing is a significant uptick of how many emails or inboxes we go through Canvas that I'm getting, but it's not like the traditional email that I remember. You know, they would go into detail, and then you would get one from one student once in a great while and that kind of thing. More, it's kind of like texting now. It's like they have one-liners and they're coming to me as an instructor, asking them how to find this, but it's almost like it's shifted a little bit, where the students they want this like texting environment. And so things have changed and there's etiquette involved, and I think etiquette is definitely something we can continue to polish up and maybe adjust and change with the times.
And this is Joanne Armstrong. I'm the Dean overseeing Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. Nice to meet you all. I would like to see more professional development for other faculty using interpreters in the classroom, especially in online environment, and what is best practices. I think it's easier when you're in the face-to-face classroom to situate the student in a way that they can see the interpreter, but how do you help teachers to help students be successful in not language classes, just every other class where they're using interpreters? I think that would be helpful for faculty to be aware of best practices when using online interpreters as well.
And Joanne, I'm going to tap into that. You might already be aware that our district's really, I'm not sure what the exact title is, but we definitely have a new department that's really focusing on equity, along the lines of equity and being aware of minority cultures and things like that, or so perhaps we can work, I don't know, maybe I can touch base with her and just kind of, you know, hey, this is one aspect of the deaf community where we use interpreters. We can just, you know, offer it as a workshop for those that want that, you know, additional training. So maybe be able to do it district-wide as well.
Yeah, I just like to not see it get lost in understanding ADA accommodations, because it's different. And so it gets very lost into that big picture. And some people say, I don't need that, when really it has changed in this online environment. So I agree, if you could work with or maybe reach out to diversity, equity, and inclusion, that would be helpful, I think.
I agree. Thank you for the suggestion.
I wanted to tag on to that, that working with faculty, some of the work I do is actually in high school, and these kids are getting lost. They can't see the interpreters, or someone else will join the room and the interpreter jumps to another page or something. And so teaching pinning and spotlighting and making sure that all of the Zoom programs are up to date, because I'll tell you what, Zoom updates twice, 3 times a week sometimes, and you can lose your spotlighting ability or whatever platform you're using. So it's a lot of technical education as well, but I can't tell you how important it is to learn how to spotlight and ping your interpreters so that they are always seen by the students.
There was actually an interpreter feature in Zoom, because I've been on a Zoom where there were multiple languages being interpreted at the same time. And
So
you can toggle as a user between which language, and you would only hear that language instead of hearing all of the other background. So I know that there's Zoom features that we probably don't even know how to use.
That's slick.
You know, it's rapidly evolving, rapidly moving. I heard that from Joanne a little earlier, and I was like, wow, I was floored. I've seen the evolution of Zoom since back in, I don't know, February. Being able to pin the interpreter has been a godsend for me, because I've been able to take my interpreters and drag them next to the speakers. I mean, I do speak verbally, but I very much rely on the interpreters. And so whoever's speaking, I like to pin the interpreter right next to them so I can read the person's lips and refer back to the interpreter. And so we do have this diverse need within the deaf community. And I think pinning and being aware of the other features of how the languages might be accessed is definitely up there. I think the challenging part for me also is for us to keep abreast and then immediately be aware of this new release and then somehow get that out to your students. That I would imagine is a challenge, but we can catch up because things have already changed so much since February.
And in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I would say so. So I think we talked a little bit about internships, online opportunities. That's my last question on there. I don't know what else to talk about other than I need to reach out to individuals in this meeting, and you know, others I may be aware of. I'm kind of guiding towards we need to start making our connections again, even if it's going to be in a completely online environment. I'm already seeing these little roads occurring. You know, meetings are starting to occur within the deaf community, but we also need to change back and, you know, try to, if it's going to go that way, we need to be able to offer that. The other concern I have, and this is also, you know, Jed, you teach on several campuses. you know, we haven't had the same students that are on campus at SCC when we left. I mean, some of these students might now be in four-year schools. So what we're going to miss in our traditional coming back to the school is we're not going to, probably not going to have the same, I would say, people to carry on the prior historical things we've done on campus or knowledge of our current organization. So it's almost like we're going to have to start all over again and start these programs, and what we're going to expose the students to as to what the culture of the campus might look like. Because that old knowledge that the students would carry, you know, you'd have a sophomore meeting a freshman, and the freshman would take a look at the sophomore and say, oh yeah, I want to be, you know, president of the student association here, or oh wow, that, you know, that guy's a great role model, that's cool, maybe I can be vice president next year. I don't know if that's going to be the same when we come back on campus. And so that is a concern of mine, the cultural stuff that we used to have on campus. But at the same time, yes, we do need to be able to pivot out in an online environment. And I don't think, I somehow got the feeling that we kind of had a permanent shift. I don't know if that's ever going to go away. You know what I mean? The online environment, as extensively as it's been used. I do notice our students, especially in March of last year, there was a lot more struggle with submitting assignments, even though I already had the directions. I had videos, screen capturing, showing them step by step how to submit documents. There was a lot more struggle in March. Come fall, there was a little less. This spring, I'm not hearing as many as technology issues as there used to be in terms of screen capturing, recording, submitting documents. What is a link? Where do I put the link? Things like that. So I think our population in general has been given, for some anyway, for those that have access to the technology, they're learning this stuff rapidly. And my concern also is, especially those that don't have access to computers, that are being left behind in the community. And I know the deaf community oftentimes lacks the financial resources, not all, but you know, some lacks the financial resources, and the unemployment is high within the deaf community. I know what it's like as a deaf person to apply for a job, to, you know, just to be able to grab a job, even if you have the proper credentials and backgrounds. And so I recognize that, and I'm sensitive, and I am concerned about that. And I that's why I'm asking about the funding. I mean, I know the colleges, or our college, I'm sure the other colleges is doing well, where they were, you know, finding funding from perhaps the CARES Act, or, you know, other sources of revenue to be able to loan out laptops and things like that. Because not everybody has access to a laptop. You know, I feel for them, and I think we need to keep them in the back of our mind and find ways to reach out to them. And COVID has definitely not made them any easier. And Jet?
Okay, go ahead, Jet. Okay, so I know what you were talking about relating to that discussion. You're saying there are a lot of students out there struggling with the technology, the internet. I mean, my idea, it's not even, I mean, obvious, but the design that's out there, I have to struggle with the technology. It's not easy, you know. When you invite me to things, you know, I'm a teacher now, but COVID forced us, you know, everything to shut down. So I'm sorry, the software, you know, the software programs, the grades.
Or React.
Oh.
Go React.
Draw React. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
Sign.com.
I'm sorry, you
Sorry.
guys. No, thank you. I'm sorry, yeah.
Everyone, I'll take over. Go for it.
Thank you. Okay, time. My brain's dead.
So anyway, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Again, so we have the Go React, also the Dawn Sign, Treehouse for the lab use. Rio Hondo's great about having that, actually. And also I used, there's one more, Class Marker. That one, those all together, moving between all of those different individual programs and the students, reminding them, you got to do this, I need you on Blackboard, this is the curriculum, this is what we're setting up for individual learning, as far as the linguistics go and the language and the signing and then my teaching. And I feel like, whoa, I got a heck of a weight on my shoulders. I have to do all this research also on myself. Then I got to go through all the emails every day, trying to understand what people are saying. Sometimes students are asking me 1,000 questions and I'm struggling and I don't know what to say. And then I got to request help, and then I need to get them tutors, and then to figure out how to get help to show them how to do things. And with all that time, it's beginning to become so much to trying to explain everything. And is this clear? Does it even make sense? It's a heck of a struggle. I mean, it's fine at times, but sometimes, woo, the technology. I'm telling you, you have to be really skilled at what you're doing. Some of I don't know what I'm doing, but there's that. So, you know, it's a game changer. It's a different game now. You guys have experienced the same thing also too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know that, Charlie. You know, and the thing is, you never solve everything in one email. It's never, it's a few times. Sometimes things take more than a week. They take 2 weeks. They take 3 weeks. They take 4 weeks. It takes a month. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, I need to go things over and over again, explain them to my students about what happened. And it eats up so much of my teaching time. Then I end up behind. So the modules and the units, I have to figure them out. I make sure everybody's keeping up. I got to make sure that they get everything, you know, working together, so it's all copacetic. So yeah, I got all that too.
I understand your challenges there.
And I'm taking a drink.
Appreciate it. So I think we're approaching the end times for a meeting. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. I don't know if you have my information, and I'm not sure if you have a pen and paper. I guess I could. I'm not sure if I can type it on it. So this is the technology. I would like to stay in touch with each and every one of you. Partnerships have formed that way. That's how new ideas are implemented. I don't want to allow Zoom, or not Zoom, but COVID to interrupt or disrupt that. So please feel free to reach out to me. You guys are in different aspects of the community. I'm not going to probably have as much exposure to. So I'd like to keep abreast. I do rely on my instructors to help tell me what's going on, but I think the more diverse perspectives that we have, whether it's coming from an interpreting agency, an advocacy agency, whether it's going to be from another instructor from another school, I would like for you to keep in touch with me. Please, let's just stay in touch and help one another out. And I really want to thank you for coming today.